Who is Danielle Sainte-Marie and why should I buy her books? Hi, I am the aforementioned person, and I wanted to tell you about me, in as concise and yet entertaining a way as I can. I was born in Anaheim, California. I started writing at 6 years old, and at 7 years old I became a professional writer. I wrote 30-page short stories which I distributed around school for a nickel. At 8, I began writing poetry at 9 years of age. By 12, I had been published 4 times, and began writing my first novel. Longhand, and it finished out at 385 pages. I faked being sick so I could stay home for a week and write that book. 12 to 16 hours a day I wrote, and within 6 days it was done. After that I was healed. It's a miracle. Life was beating me up though, and I am not going to delve into its details here, because certain responsible parties are dead, and I am through with beating up those demons. Let's just say that during my teen years I continued to write but stopped seeking publishing. That didn't stop my story. The Ganymede Recruit, now found in my book for young adults, titled An Open Book is a Mind About to Soar, from winning Best Short Story in the state of Michigan for age groups 15 to 18. However, it should be noted that my teacher submitted it without my knowledge. When I was 16, I was on my own, and yeah, I was homeless. I got mixed up on drugs and booze, and took to criminal activities. I was angry, alone, and suffering from bipolar. But I didn't know that's what the condition I had was called. I also had PTSD, an eating disorder, and more. My writing continued, but it was very dark and sinister. Although I had grown up on 50s and 60s music, I was now listening to Merciful Fate, Judas Priest, Grim Reaper, Suicidal Tendencies, Overkill, Slayer, Venom, and more. My clothing took on this very get away from me vibe, with upside-down crosses and white drawn all over my black combat boots. By 21, I had settled down a bit, and began work on a new book, titled MEMBERS. Originally, it was intended to be just one book about a boy searching for his murderous father. But, as I got about 60 pages into it, using a typewriter at this point, I realized the story was just too big for me. Sadly, I had the writing skills but not the life experience that I would need to make this story shine. I needed wisdom, and so I went on a search for it. But first, I sent all 60 pages of it to a Southern writer I had befriended while living in Georgia, named Leroy Spruill. He's passed away now, but I still haven't treasured his note back to me. This book is extraordinary, and there is no doubt you are an amazing writer. I haven't seen something like this in a long, long time. Your style is to be coveted. Get this work finished and I will send it to my publisher. I am looking at that note now, in fact. But I didn't finish it then. I had too much integrity as a writer to just try and make a fast buck for something I knew I could do better. So, I put the story on hold, and just continued the next 15 years writing stories and a whole lot of poetry, but, most importantly, I went out and lived. Really lived. I went into the army and did a hitch there. I studied very intensely under the famous mythologist Joseph Campbell. I moved to Ohio where I studied ninjutsu and ninpo. I began studying Mikkyo, esoteric Buddhism, and picked up my Bible again and reread it with opened eyes. I studied science, quantum mechanics, and comparative religions. I got into directing film, and did complex film analyses of their metaphors. I received 2 degrees, one from university and one from college. I began training, as a civilian, the infantry at Fort Benning in hand-to-hand combat and weapon retention, under the supervision of Master Sergeant J.R. Edens. I studied 3 foreign languages, and immersed myself in Asian culture. I went everywhere from Montauk Point on Long Island to Hollywood, California. At this time, my IQ was tested and stood at 182, making me the 6th smartest person in the world. If you believe in IQ tests, which I do not. Before I began my quest, my IQ was tested at 149, the same as my father's was when he died. And, when I was around my mid-30s I decided to turn back again to MEMBERS, or Members, this book that had haunted me for so long. I Began writing it and found that I was, indeed, ready to complete it. The story had grown in my mind over the years into a trilogy, and it was now much more complex than just a story about a boy and his father. Or, was it, when I turned my attention to writing full-time again and decided to publish, I knew I would not get involved with editors and marketers. I wanted to do it on my own, even though I knew it meant no to little fame or money. I knew I couldn't live with myself if I sold out for riches and glory. It had always been about the work, for me. So, that is why you don't know who I am, and don't see my face plastered everywhere. No one is stalking me and there aren't droves of fans outside my home. I could have had all that, but I just didn't want to create such a life. I like the quiet, the solitude of being me. But, you shouldn't let my lack of fame make you think I am some has-been who can't hack it. If you do think that, you will be missing out on some of the greatest works you have ever read in your life. I can say that, because I'm a writer of the deepest quality and worth. So, that's your answer as to who I am. Thanks for listening.